Hi, I'm Bill Solik. I'm going to talk with you about how to make better videos. We're going to talk about two parts. First half is going to be about shooting or filming. Second half about editing. So let's jump right into it. Shooting. You want to think about making a movie actually in 3 steps. It's not when you actually just click the record button. The first time you actually make a movie is when you write it. If you skip this step, if you just kind of make it up as you go, you actually miss a huge opportunity to create your movie. By the time you actually start filming with a camera in your hand, you should already have a really good idea of what it's going to look like in your head because you've already written it down as a script. You have a document that's organized everything. You have your storyboard, so you know what to expect. Then you make the movie again when you actually film it. Now this can be quite different from when you write it, but you should at least have an idea of where you're headed. Again, if you're going to just film it and click record and that's when you're actually writing it for the first time, then you're going to miss out on this huge opportunity. So you're really making it a second time when you film it. And then once you get on your computer and start editing it, that's the third time you actually make it. And you can completely rearrange stuff because this is non-linear editing. You can take something that was supposed to be in the middle and have it be the first shot. You can take the first shot, have it be the last shot, rearrange it however you want because you already know what footage you have, what works and what doesn't work. Here's a few tips for you. Number 1, don't move the camera a lot. Either use a tripod or use something to hold your camera against. If you have a wallet or a purse, you can even just balance your camera on that. If there's the side of a wall or some sort of post, take your camera, balance it up against that, and that's going to make it much, much more stable than just holding it. If you are going to move the camera though, move the camera a lot. Make it like a Blair Witch Project where it's just obvious camera movement and that's part of it. The worst thing you can do is just kind of hold it steady. If you have to hold it in your hand, use 2 hands, elbows in, feet spread kind of shoulder width apart so you're as stable as you can be, and then just slow breaths. You never ever want to just hold it with one hand like this because it's going to be really shaky, and that's the easiest way for your videos to look like they're amateur videos. Generally speaking, you don't want to be staring at the camera. If you're doing any sort of acting, any sort of thing where you're supposed to tell a story, if the actors or your students or yourself look at the camera, that needs to be an edit point. So maybe that's when you cut to a wide shot or cut to an insert shot so that they're not just talking, and then going to stare at the camera and keep talking. If you're going to break this rule, like in this photo, really break this rule. If you're doing a newscast, hi, welcome to the Room 13 News. I'm your host, Mr. Selleck. Then clearly talk to the camera as though the camera is your audience. Almost imagine like your audience is inside the camera. Unless you're doing a newscast where you're talking to your audience, you never want to have them look at the camera though. Just like any good story, you want to capture the beginning, middle, and end in a video. Don't just have it kind of start randomly and have a few shots. Really just tell a story. If you know how to tell a story, whether you're talking or tell a story when you're writing a story, you know how to tell a story when you're shooting video. You want to shoot to edit. You want to think about what the final product is going to look like, how you're going to piece it together as you're filming. 2 examples for you. The first one's this photograph. This is actually 7 photos I took downtown LA going into downtown. I set up a tripod and I knew that if I had one long exposure, it would just kind of wash it out, and instead of being black, this would be just super, super bright. I wanted to get the bright trails going, but I didn't want everything to be bright. So I actually took 7 photos and then photoshopped it so that only the parts I wanted to be brighter got brighter. I was thinking about what the final product was going to look like while I was shooting. The second story I have for you is from my wedding. I'm editing my wedding video. It's been 7 years and it's still not edited. Here's why. Before the wedding, I was the groom, so I wasn't allowed to see my bride. My friend Ryan was shooting as though I was going to be editing it together. So he would, get the camera, and it was, an old one, it was 7 years ago. So like, hey Bill, how's it going? I wave, and then he'd zoom out to a wide shot. get people having lunch, and come over here, get some people talking. And in the meantime, it's completely all over the place, but then he'd frame it up, you'd see him zoom a little bit, and then move on to his next shot. Editing Ryan's footage took very little time. I really just got rid of that camera shake where I was pointing at the ground and could keep almost everything because it was just a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, and it really told a story and made it easy to edit. There were a variety of shots, which made it even easier to edit. Let's contrast that with what Isabel was doing on the bride's side. She had some friends that said, yeah, we'll shoot. But they were busy, so they just found a tripod, set the camera on a tripod, and most of the footage I have is 45 minutes of her getting her makeup done. And that's really just one shot. So I've taken that and I fast forwarded that, so that takes 10 seconds, but that really just gave me one shot. There wasn't a lot of other stuff to work with. So I've had to be really creative with how I'm figuring out how to edit that. But that's such a different style from 2 seconds here, 2 seconds there. The footage with me was so much easier to edit because my friend Ryan, who was filming it, was thinking about how I would edit it later. And that's what you want to do when you film. Here's some examples for you of what it looks like in a movie. Here's what a close-up is. With a human, it's going to be about their face. Medium shot, it's going to be about the waist up. Also notice in most of these examples, people are off on one of the thirds. So Doc is here on the left third. A wide shot is going to be either an entire person, an entire car, something that's nice and wide. In this particular scene, here's our establishing shot. We know where we are. We're at Twin Pines Mall. Really obvious, and most establishing shots are going to be that nice wide shot. At the end of what I would consider this scene, here's our closing shot. Time machine just traveled, and poof, we see that it's gone. Moving on to the reverse shot. To get away from just the classic, this person talks, that person talks, this person talks, that person talks. Here's Marty, then him looking at the truck. So it goes back and forth in a reverse between truck, Marty, truck, Marty. Anytime you intercut two things back and forth, we refer to those as a reverse shot. Up next, when you see someone's shoulder, that's an over-the-shoulder shot. Again, the feeling you want with an over-the-shoulder is kind of peering in, oh, I'm right there, I'm in the parking lot with them. So if you're trying to convey that emotion, you want to use an over-the-shoulder shot. A point of view shot, these are all point of views. Anything that's not eye level. Could be above the car, on the floor, as the car drives by. Just anything that is different than eye level we consider to be a point of view. And finally, a special type of insert or type of close-up shot. Here's our insert. See how those stopwatches were in precise synchronization? That's actually the whole point of the movie. If this was a wide shot, we wouldn't be able to see the digits and we wouldn't know what's going on. Because when Einstein travels back in time, we see that they're exactly 1 minute off. That sets the whole precedent for this entire movie. So it's some important detail that you need to actually be able to read as an audience member. So keep all of these shots in mind as you're editing your own videos, and your videos will be that much more professional. Here's the editing side of things. We've already filmed it. When you're editing, when you're taking all those different pieces of videos and cutting them together to be one cohesive piece of video, you're probably going to have it be pretty slow paced if you're just getting into editing. What you want to do is have those cuts be faster. If someone's walking into a room, you don't want to have it be an empty room, then they open the door, then they walk in, and they exit the frame of video. You can actually start it as they're walking into the door. As humans, we know that people walk into doors, so we don't have to see them grab the door, pull the door open, and walk in. Start it as they're walking in, and we don't have to wait till they completely leave. As they get towards the edge of the frame, that's when you can cut it. So generally speaking, your cuts need to be fast. Please, please, please avoid special effects. Just because you can do something, it doesn't mean that you should do something. This will make it look like your video is made by a 5th grader, and that's not what we want to do. Have I mentioned this? Cut faster. Your videos are probably going to be a bit slower than you think. Even now, me saying it twice, they're probably still going to be a little bit slow. Make those cuts just a little bit faster so your video moves quicker. If it's a medium shot, 2 or 3 seconds is plenty of time. The longest, unless you're doing some sort of special like, hi, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, unless you're doing a fancy shot like that, or a really long Steadicam shot, you don't want to have anything longer than really 5 seconds. Pay attention to what's in the frame. If there's a road behind you, be careful what's going on. If there's a playground behind you, move the camera. Have a simple background, simple foreground, so it's easy for people to see what's going on in the frame. They don't have to think about it and say, all right, what's going on? Oh, that's where our actor is. Make it really obvious and easy for the audience to figure it out. Also pay attention to what's on the edge of your frame and what's behind them. If there's something that kind of goes like this behind the person, it might look like they're wearing a giant hat. If there's something on the very, very edge of the frame, like a little branch kind of sticking out, that's going to be distracting. So move it just a little bit so that you have a nice clean background and it doesn't interact in a bad way with our foreground. Have I mentioned this one? I don't remember. Faster cuts. I found that 3rd time's the charm. So let's talk about what we talked about. When you're shooting, either don't move the camera or move it a lot. Try not to stare into the camera, and when you think about shooting, when you think about editing, that's what's happening as you're shooting. All right, so as I'm filming, I'm thinking about what the final product's going to look like so that it's easier to edit it down the road. And try and get more than just medium, medium, medium shot, or medium wide, medium wide. If you have a variety of shots, it's going to be much easier to edit. And that goes to part of shooting to edit. When you're editing, just don't do special effects. Simple fonts, easy to read fonts, simple cuts. You don't even need to have a dissolve, just one shot cuts to the other. Please don't have something where it turns and does a cube effect or does like a page peel. Again, it's going to look like you just learned how to do that and you can do it because it's cool. Don't do special effects. Make your cuts faster. I think I mentioned that one. And just keep what's in the frame simple. Make it easy for your audience to identify what's important.